Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. Take your seats after that rousing rendition, a little opening ditty there. Everybody sit down, start paying attention. We have got a very lively show for you this evening. Not much to talk about, but we'll do our best to try to bring something up. We're glad you're here. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. This is Dr. Richard Owen, joined by...
I'm a surefire.
And
Uncle Bocce.
Uncle Debachi. So, we always start the show kind of down the same path so we'll not break our rhythm. We are all over the social media as Doc Owen Show, DocOwenShow. We have a blog that's called DocOwenShow.com. The Twitter handle is @DocOwenShow. And we have free apps for both the iPhone and Android devices, which has our entire catalog of all the podcasts that we've created over the past 3 years. We're now in our 4th year. So get out there, give us a listen, follow the path, follow what we call delivering truth to youth. We would be really glad to have you. And in the traditional manner, Ms. Surefire starts off with a bit of inspiration followed by a moment in history from Uncle Bocce, and then I'll close out this little section with something about leadership. Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote, as usual, comes from InspirationalDaily.com. And it's from a gentleman by the name of Robert Byrne. He is an American author and Billiard Congress of America Hall of Fame pool instructor. And his quote is...
Now that's a credential.
I'm telling you.
Yes, it is.
It's a fine art.
Yep.
The purpose of life is a life of purpose.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
This said by one of the world's foremost pool players.
That's right.
I love it. He guess he had plenty of time to think about it.
Obviously.
Say it again.
Yeah.
Say it again.
The purpose of life is a life of purpose.
Perfect. 8 ball in the corner pocket.
That's right.
There you go.
All right.
That's the purpose.
Hit it, Uncle Bocce.
Okay, today in history, actually yesterday in history, because it was a very important thing that happened. Yesterday in history in 1781, we claimed victory in Yorktown.
Oh, really?
The end of the Revolutionary War.
Yorktown.
Yorktown, Virginia.
Virginia, not
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, 8,000 British troops were captured.
Surrendered.
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's sweet.
And on this day in 1803, the U.S. Senate ratifies the Louisiana Purchase.
All right.
So two good things.
Yeah, we brought Nolans into the fold.
Absolutely.
Good job. Okay. Not as usual, we have a leadership quote from someplace a little bit different. Not too long ago, I got a chance to speak to the Optimist Club, and they gave me a book on quotes for achieving the extraordinary, according to the Optimists. And here is one by Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Cool guy.
That I think is pertinent to the election cycle. God will not have his work made manifest by cowards.
There you
Good
go.
one. Yeah.
Isn't that true?
Yeah.
Mr. Ralph Waldo Emerson. We do have a good show for you tonight. We have a conversation with a fellow by the name of Joe Guzzardi. And Joe is a 30-year veteran of, we'll call it, illegal immigration. He is the chief spokesperson communicator for a group called CAPS, and it's strange because I mean, it's an acronym, but you got to throw a 4 in there. Californians for
Public.
no. Population stabilization. So CAPS, just call it CAPS, and you'll hear this in the conversation. You can find it at capsweb.org. But they have been at this game. He is a well-known writer. He publishes in newspapers all over California, et cetera. He's been at this challenge of immigration coming up through California for over 30 years. So
Well, good.
the man knows
Then
what
he-
he's talking about.
That he knows 45% of the people in California do not speak English.
Yeah, and I think
At home.
right. So
45%.
that's the number.
That's 45%.
That's crazy.
That's horrible.
And we will talk a bit about the debate. We will provide to you some fact checking that went on after the debate, as well as talk a little bit about election fraud that we think we have proof that it is going on. So, without going much further into it, Uncle Bocce, you want to give us a little bit of a history lesson to kind of set this up? Has fraud ever occurred in the United States before in the election cycle?
Never. Never.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely clean.
Yeah, and you're Irish.
And yeah, right. Speaking of the art, no. Okay, tonight we're going to start our walk or march toward independence, and we're going to be looking at events that led up to independence. So it's going to be really exciting. There's a lot of things to learn and a lot of things to know. We're going to start out with King George. You remember King George III?
Yeah.
Even though, at a later time, this is going back to the 1760s, he became king in 1760. And he was hung in effigy later on, but because the colonists, because of his tyrannical role. But nevertheless, it didn't bring any. His ruling did not bring any ire in the 1760s from the colonists. Few would have predicted that in 1776 a revolution would be unfolding in British America. I'm just trying to give you the mood of the people at the time.
So it bubbled up over a period of 16 years.
Exactly.
From the point he made the ruling, and then it took like 16 years for the people to finally go, this is not going to work.
Exactly.
Okay.
The ingredients of discontent, they seemed lacking. The people were on their own. They were doing what they had to do to feed their families. They were being very industrious and all that. So they didn't really give much thought. They still considered themselves English subjects. So the idea of separating from England was not in the forefront of their mind. Unlike we spoke about the Irish, there were no groups of American citizens or the colonies that were wanting to separate. And this didn't even
Didn't
occur to them.
Right.
That
Separate
they
from
wanted.
England, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So when King George, he was not particularly despotic. Most people think that he was a tyrant. He was, but he wasn't that despotic. So the people just really had no reason to be thinking in terms of separation. Mm. Furthermore, the colonies, they weren't unified. They had no union whatsoever. They cooperated with one another, but they were not unified. And to exclamation point that, if that is a phrase, Ben Franklin thought it was necessary to unite the colonies, and primarily because of their fear of the French and Indians, because there was a war going on. So he thought it would be a good idea that we could get together and form a union and protect ourselves.
As a defense.
As a defense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Well, guess what?
Kind of circling the wagons. I got it.
So he put forth the Albany Plan of Union. And the plan in 1754, and he even had a slogan for it, which was join or die. He drew a picture of a snake, if you can imagine, cut up in different pieces. That was his.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was, if you've seen that. That was Ben Franklin. Okay, so it was join or die. Much to Franklin's chagrin, it was a total failure. Nobody had any interest in following or becoming a union at that time.
Was this
so
before?
Further emphasizes what was going on in their minds.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, was this before or after he tried to light himself up with a key on a
this is way before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So he was unsuccessful in trying to get them to to come together. But then in a few short years, how did things change so much? What happened to make American colonists, most of whom thought of themselves as British subjects, want to break their ties, or the ties that bound them, to their forebears? What forces led the men and women in the 13 different colonies to set aside their differences and unanimously declare their independence? It's very interesting. Nobody at the time would have thought that would happen. But much happened in those years between 1763 and 1776. Very quickly, the colonies felt unfairly taxed. They were felt watched over like children. They were ignored in their attempts to address grievances.
Any of this sound familiar?
I was just going to say, you see what's going on?
The only current day parallel would be like they raised the price of Shiner Bock out of
existence.
People couldn't afford it.
Okay. Also, religious issues rose to the surface. Political ideals were beginning to be crystallized. And as always, economics were the essence of many debates. And remember, the colonies were very prosperous at this time. They really were. They weren't in need of money.
Well, and that's another reason that they weren't too worried about it.
Exactly. Exactly. Because they were doing their thing.
When people are doing well, it's all good. You know, when it starts going down is when people start going, whoa, wait a minute, what's happening here? Okay, go ahead.
And on the other side of the pond, the Brits, they found that the colonies were just unreasonably opposed and unwilling to pay their taxes.
I think we were
they couldn't understand that because the British people were paying a lot more taxes than the colonists were. So that was something that just was not understood.
Well, two things were happening. We had more fun, and we paid less taxes.
And we were free.
Right.
We were free to do what it was that we needed to do.
Right. Uh-oh.
Okay?
Now we're in trouble. Uncle Bocce dropped his notes.
Okay, so.
Most of this he remembers because he lived through it, but there are times when
yes, I was there. Right. Especially during this one. In 1770, the Boston Massacre. Remember we talked about that in Crispus Attucks?
Yes.
The black man? Okay. So that did happen, and it was a squad of British soldiers, and they were nervous, and they shot at the crowd and killed 5 people, 3 immediately, and then 2 who died later. Yeah. Okay.
Just because they were nervous.
But see, but this time cooler heads did not prevail. Every action by one side brought a new action from the other side, so it was back and forth, and so tempers became, pretty hot.
Yep.
The geographical difference between England and the colonies became more and more noticeable. How about the difference between Washington, D.C. and the rest of us? Yeah. So all of these things were foreshadowed.
Right.
And so before long, the point of no return was
reached.
Right. Now, that's our brief for tonight.
Okay.
In next week, we are going to start talking about the Royal Proclamation of 1763, which by England that was prohibiting the colonists to settle west of the Appalachian Mountains. That's one of the straws that was put on the camel before the camel broke.
Interesting.
Okay, so we'll be doing that. Uncle Bocce, UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com or on Twitter as Uncle_Bocce.
Attaboy.
Talk to me.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you, Uncle Bocce.
Before we go into our first commercial break, we have a significant announcement to make. A member of the Doc Owen Show has been accepted into her, and that should help define who it is, PhD program. Ms. Surefire, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Guess I'm going to have to start going back to school. Huh?
We-
Keep up with you guys. Congratulations. That's great.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
The fun begins.
Oh, yeah, that's what they call it, right?
All right. Give us a chance to grab a sip of water, and we will be right back.
Did you ever look at the stains in your coffee cup and then realize that's exactly what happens to your teeth? Paraswabs is the 5-minute solution to get your teeth white without visiting the dentist. This is John Greenhut, the CEO of Paraswabs. And if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, all it takes is 5 minutes with Paraswabs. In 5 minutes, you'll see an average of 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. It's clinically proven to whiten natural teeth as well as caps and veneers. The secret is a tooth detergent that was developed by Dr. Martin Ginniger that lifts stains off of your teeth. Best of all, there's no messy strips or trays that you have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes and you're done. To try Paraswabs risk-free, call 1-800-975-4583. That's 1-800-975-4583. I guarantee your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free today. 1-800-975-4583. That's 1-800-975-4583.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. You're listening to the Doc Owen Show. We have another program that we sponsor that we do that is on Tuesday nights here live and then broadcast at various times throughout the networks on called Saint Cities by Doc Owen Show. SAINT, that stands for Sanctuary Assembled in Nature's Tradition, where we talk about very positive alternative to current day vernacular of sanctuary cities. And there's a Facebook page called Saint Cities. We've got a whole, kind of budding movement out there having to do with Saint Cities. As a result, we reached out and had a conversation with our next guest. But I'm bringing it over here to the Doc Owen Show as well because it's extremely pertinent. And I don't want those of you who might have missed Saint Cities or not know exactly where to find it or haven't gotten turned on to it yet to miss some very valuable information about illegal immigration, et cetera, because it is a hot topic even in the current day presidential campaign and other campaigns. It's something that we just need to be paying attention to. So here is Mr. Joe Guzzardi. Take it away, Joe. Let me do the introduction. Folks, right. We are about to have a conversation with a young man by the name of Joe Guzzardi, who is and you can correct me on the title, Joe, but you're the front man for communications for an organization called CAPS, which is Californians for
Population Stabilization.
See, Anna has to deal with those big words for us. So, population stabilization, and you can find them at capsweb.org. CAP as in Papa S, web.org is their website. They do some great work. Joe is a long time a author, actually. He publishes in a lot of newspapers as well as blogging, and from time to time we get to hear his voice. Joe, nice to meet you, sir. How are you?
It's great to be with you, Doc. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's an opportunity both ways. So let me start things off by saying, we're headquartered in Texas, which means we think we are the epicenter for illegal immigration and all the entrance over the southern border and all of that jazz. But in looking at the numbers and in looking at just a cursory view of the map that you have prominent on your homepage, I think we're running second place to Southern California. And I know probably know those numbers.
Well, Doc, the good news for you is that, yes, you are in second place. The bad news for us is that we Californians are in first place.
Yeah.
We have approximately 2.5 million to 3 million illegal immigrants living in California. It's kind of hard to keep track of those numbers because there are more pouring across the southern border every single day.
I know. And what amazes me is all the politicians have been stuck on 11 million across the United States for it seems like 10 years. And
Gosh, that's a great point. I've been doing immigration work for 30 years, and ever since the 1986 Ronald Reagan Immigration Reform and Control Act passed, maybe about 10 years or so after it passed, the number has been unchanged.
Right.
That doesn't.
Yeah, it's like as many go home as come in on an annual basis, and I find that hard to believe.
I'll say.
You posted a recent article about let's change the focus a little bit from the southern border, which gets all the airplay and gets all the time, and well, it should. It's porous as it can be. But you recently posted an article about the Canadian border, which is kind of a, hey, wait a minute, we may have another back door that's open or a side door that nobody's paying attention to. And one of the things you brought out in that article was the number of, in particular, Syrian refugees that are being brought out of the Middle East into Canada. Can you kind of expound on that a little bit for us?
Oh, my pleasure. About a month or so ago, I had an opportunity to go up to Canada, tour the Canadian border with some other immigration experts, and it was astounding to see the vast number of open spaces where there is literally no fencing at all, and where the border is defined by a marker.
Yeah.
Just a marker says, okay, this side is the United States and that side is Canada. So we talked to a lot of Customs and Border Patrol officials, and we were taken around by some retired Border Patrol agents who, since they were retired, could speak freely and openly.
Yes, sir.
And they said that the possibility for terrorism via Canada is enormous, and it's been exacerbated by Prime Minister Trudeau's obsession with resettling as many Syrian refugees as he possibly can. I think the current goal is 25,000. That's
what you had written in your article. It's almost, I mean, they play as if the southern border weren't bad enough. It's sort of like they're waving their hand there to say, look over here, and the entire time they're coming in from the opposite direction, where it appears we're putting out minimum resources. And you mentioned a thing in your article called the slash is all we've got as a border. In other words, just kind of like when we put in new telephone lines or new electric lines through a forest, we, cut a slash. And that, in effect, is the border.
It's exactly that. And then, as I also mentioned in my column, effective December the 1st, Trudeau is going to initiate a program where anybody who lives in Mexico can come to Canada without a visa. So we know...
He's like Obama on steroids.
Yeah, right, exactly. We know that there are terrorists down in Mexico, operating in Mexico.
Sure.
And we know that there are a lot of ways that they can get in, but now all of a sudden it's going to be much easier for them because they don't need a visa. They can just get on a plane and go from Mexico to Canada. Very frightening.
What's his logic? What's his reasoning? Because you've done the research. Is it cheap labor? Is it? I mean, I know his front piece is humanitarian effort, but what's really behind it?
Labor. I think it's just an ideology that he's a very left guy.
Yeah.
And he thinks that this is the obligation of the Canadians to take in and resettle these Syrians and Iranians. And I think he doesn't like the idea that other countries in Europe are taking in many more than in Canada. So I think with him, it's just a commitment to resettle Syrian refugees.
And of course, I'm sure that the Canadian, I'm not sure, but I've done business with and worked for Canadian firms for about 4 or 5 years, know a bunch of them very, very well, and I know their culture. And so they probably object to this, but not to the extent of open protests, et cetera, like Americans do. They're far more kind of reserved. They think they'll do
No,
it.
you're right. You're right that they object to this. I talked to a lot of Canadian citizens
Yes, sir.
and asked them what they think about the current policy of the 25,000 Syrian refugees and what they think about the policy that's going to go into effect on December the 1st about letting Mexicans travel freely to Canada.
Right.
And they are very, very, very upset and worried about it because, they know as well as you and I know, potential for terrorism is great.
Well, they're not stupid. I mean, just, I've always kind of teased them that, the temperature can be minus 50 degrees with absolutely no traffic on the street whatsoever, and they walk down to the corner and wait for the light to change. That's just the way they are. I've already finished my first pint of beer by the time they, go to the corner, wait for the light, and get back over to the other side. So,
I was in Ottawa. We started and began our tour in Ottawa, and
wow.
the changes, which are really just in their inception, were extremely visible.
Yeah.
The city is changing rapidly. The lifelong Canadians are unhappy about it.
Well, they'll have a chance to vote him out, I guess, and turn
like
things
us
around.
native Californians, Doc.
Yes, sir. I I empathize with you. Not enough to come out there and hunker down with you, but I still empathize with you. We're getting quite a few of them here in Texas. We've got an awful lot of California transplants that are coming in. So some of that's good, some of that's not so good.
I think Texas is a friendlier business environment, isn't it, than California?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's very, very entrepreneurial. Taxes are low. Support is high. We have we like to think we have plenty of educated labor. There's still some areas that you guys are always going to outshine us on, and that's in terms of the IT world, and just because of your web of very, very talented young people, and I don't see any way to transpose them. So,
well, it's a little discussed element or factor in how California is adversely affected by illegal immigration. You have a lot of people with skills and with good jobs and with talent who look around and they say, hey, this is not the California that I know and love.
Right.
I'm going to leave. So we've got good people leaving, going to Texas, and you've got some less skilled, less talented people coming in.
Right.
That is a very bad. That's a bad combination.
Yeah, you're losing your tax contributors and gaining tax takers, and
Exactly.
and so Governor Brown's not helping you much on that front. So
Oh my God, he's
that's one of those don't get you started, right?
he's the worst, and your guy is among the best.
Yeah.
If not the best.
Yeah. So for right now, that would appear to be true. But the challenge is we are all faced with what confuses me. And since you've been at this so long, maybe you can help me, because it confuses me, and I have a hard time kind of transmitting it to my audience. Is this sanctuary city notion between the disconnect between police departments and policing units and the federal immigration authorities known as ICE. I mean, can you rationalize that? I mean, do you understand where that's coming from? And I assume it's the same in your territory as it is here in Texas.
It is incomprehensible. Sanctuary cities are against federal law. There was a law passed in 1996 that specifically prohibited the existence of sanctuary cities.
That's what I thought.
Specifically insisted that local law enforcement, whether at the municipal level or the state level, is obligated to share immigration information with federal officials when those officials request it. So
Right.
all of this business about San Francisco has passed its own law, that's all nonsense. I mean, in no case does municipal law supersede federal law.
It's upside down.
You know,
Yeah.
basically, I mean, what should be happening and is not happening is that the Department of Justice should be down on these people like
Right.
a ton of bricks. These cities like a ton of bricks, but they don't. And since they don't, and since Obama doesn't insist that they do, they get away with the sanctuary city argument.
So, which makes them a lot of money. I mean, I think sanctuary city. We've talked to some folks from the Center for Immigration Studies, and they're very intelligent and have a lot of numbers. They're a lobbyist group, and they do their research. And I mean,
Good friends, though.
there's some really good, smart people in there, Joe, and they it's follow the money trail. In other words, a lot of organizations have not-for-profit sounding names like Catholic Charities is one that I pick on, but it's a for-profit organization that makes a ton of money off of what they call resettlement and what you and I and a lot of others call illegal immigration. And I'm sure the same operatives are in Southern California.
They are in Southern California, and they are extremely well organized.
Yes, sir.
Extremely powerful and extremely well funded.
Right.
And don't forget, Doc, about the immigration lawyers, the way that they profit off of illegal immigration, legal and illegal immigration.
You bring up a very valid point. I had left them out of the mix, but you're absolutely correct. And the term shyster comes to mind. Since you and I are about the same generation, we hadn't heard that term in a long time.
It's a good one, though.
Yeah, it is. It's very appropriate. I can understand why the lawyers wanted to do away with it. It's kind of like
Time
change.
to revive it.
Yeah, I think we may be onto something. I'm not sure how to spell it, but we'll work on that.
We've been terribly affected by sanctuary cities. Of course, the headline case that went nationwide.
Right.
Finally, about a year and a half or so ago,
Right.
a little more than a year ago. And even though that made national headlines, and even though there was an outrage across America,
Yes, sir.
5-time deported, 7-time convicted felon could shoot this beautiful woman at a tourist station in broad daylight
Right.
in San Francisco, we could not get Congress to defund sanctuary cities.
I know.
Paul Ryan,
I
House
know.
of Representatives, Speaker of the House, would not defund sanctuary cities. The Senate refused to pass a very good bill that would have defunded sanctuary cities.
Yep.
Obama said that if the Senate had passed the bill, he would have vetoed
He would have vetoed it. Right.
where we are.
Yeah, and I absolutely remember of course, the outrage about that, and it's as if it was kind of what I call kabuki theater. In other words, it was just all of the outrage was simply a show, because there is absolutely no excuse when you make it all the way up to getting a derogatory rant from Bill O'Reilly. You've pretty well made it to the top of a movement.
I mean, there was all of this, as you say, for 30 days. There was all of this outrage. Oh my God, how can this happen? We've
Right.
got to do something about it. And then it was like it never happened.
Well, I can tell you that's where Saint Cities came from. It was just the thought process of me sitting out on the porch and thinking, okay, where is my sanctuary city? How far do I have to move? I mean, how often do I have to move before I can create a good sanctuary, a God-fearing sanctuary? And so, just as kind of an FYI, that Kate Stanley thing was a real trigger to that. So,
and that's only the case, Doc, that made the headline.
Right.
There have been others, dozens, if not hundreds of others, in the 15 months Kate Stanley was murdered.
I tell you what befuddles me, Joe, is why the issue itself is not bipartisan. I think I know the answer, but I don't like it, so I choose to ignore it. And that is that one side of the aisle is expecting a lot of voters, and the other side has already given up that they're not going to get them. But then there are members of the Republican side, like Speaker of the House, who think, well, if we give in to them, then maybe we can get some of those voters. That's really the only reason I can see for allowing a presidential candidate like Trump to flourish.
You're absolutely right that resolving the problems related to illegal immigration should be a bipartisan effort. Certainly something like getting criminal aliens should be something that Republicans and Democrats can agree on.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you're right about the Democrats and their perception that all of these individuals are going to be Democratic voters. I think probably if they end up voting, they'll be Democrats, but the statistics show that they don't often show up at the polls even after they become citizens.
Well, I know, and I think what you've probably learned as we learn and know here in South Texas, actually the culture, the Hispanic culture. Now we've gone back to the South. We keep going back and forth from Canada to Mexico. Actually, that their culture is far more in line with Republican culture than it is with Democrat culture. And we have
exactly right.
We have a hard time.
Noticed, I'm sure,
that
the people that are out there advocating for more immigration and wanting to wink at illegal immigration are not individuals.
No,
they're these high-powered Washington D.C. lobbyist types.
Right.
The average Hispanic, certainly a Hispanic American, they realize that more immigration means more competition for the job that I have or the job that I may want to get.
Right.
It means that my children are going to have to compete with more children for the teacher's attention. More attention is going to have to be given to non-speaking children. They don't want any part of that.
Right. But unfortunately, they're up against also part of their culture. They don't speak out like we speak out. You know what I'm saying? They complain and grumble and will tell you one-to-one, or they may grumble amongst themselves. But they don't get organized and really fight the machine like we do. And I think that goes back to a little bit to their inherited culture of several generations where the machine always wins. And so,
well, it would be great. I agree with you totally. It would be great if there were some well-organized Hispanic groups that were like my group, Californians for Population Stabilization or Center for Immigration Studies.
Right.
They got out there and lobbied and just told us the way it is, that, hey, more immigration is bad for us. Bad for us here in the Hispanic American community in Texas and in California. We don't get anything out of that.
No.
That was the question that Donald Trump posed early on. Hey, what do you get out of this?
Right.
Meaning American. I mean, he wasn't talking specifically about Hispanics, but what do we get out of mass immigration? Well, that's a good question, and the answer that I come up with is not much.
Yeah, really. Maybe a little cheaper produce from time to time, but I'll pay the extra price if I don't have to pay it in school taxes or in medical care.
To pay 3 cents more for an orange any day of the week.
I totally agree with you. Well, what have I not hit on that you'd like to make sure to give to our audience, other than go to capsweb.org, and we'll certainly promote that at every opportunity. What else would you like to convey? You've got 2 seconds. No, you've got. What would you like? What have I not asked you? What have we not talked about?
Well, my message to your listeners is not get discouraged, to keep up the fight, because there are a lot of Americans, the silent majority, as Richard Nixon used to call them, that are totally on our side.
Yeah.
they are looking around them and saying, wow, it looks like there's been a whole lot of immigration here in my local community, and it looks like it's having an effect, and I think that we need to pause it now because sovereignty is threatened, jobs are threatened, culture is threatened. So don't give up the fight. Fight even harder tomorrow than you did today.
Good for you, Joe Guzzardi. I knew we were on the same page. I really appreciate your time. I hope we get
It was really great, Doc. Invite me back. It would be great to be with you again.
I hope we will make the opportunity happen. Thanks again.
And by the way,
yes, sir.
I love Texas. I've been there a zillion times. I always have a great time in Texas.
Well, come on down. I'll buy the first round of cervezas.
Okay, thanks.
See you later. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas.
Call 1-800-352-3127. Again, 1-800-352-3127. A fee-based company.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. I hope it's welcome back because we've been having a pretty good show so far. There's one, before we dive into it, I wanted to I just got a post on the Facebook from a friend of mine in high school that is a judge and I think a Democrat. And he talks about being in politics most all of his life, either, observing it or being in it, etc. And he's lamenting about the fact of why anyone running for the highest office in the country would not agree to accept the results of the election. And then he goes on to say, unless he thinks it would help him to win. Actually, Uncle Bocce and I were talking about it before the show. That's exactly the point. You're not going to be able to convince, there's no way that Donald Trump is going to convince most voters for the other side of anything that he has to say, because it has been drilled into their heads that it's all a right-wing conspiracy and the man is nuts. So you just can't listen to what he has to say, right?
Right.
But he has hit on another chord as equally as important as his kickoff chord of illegal immigration about the system being rigged. And, one of the things we're going to talk about is some evidence, a lot of evidence that comes up that Mr. Trump is right. And ever since Trump's been running for office, that's all we ever hear is, oh, Trump said this, Trump said that. He didn't know what he's talking about. About 3 days later, oh, well, he was right. Here's the evidence. And so he's doing exactly that. He's playing to his base. He doesn't care what the other side says, but his base is also concerned that the system is rigged, right?
Yes.
Okay. I got to reach for a piece of paper and put my phone down. We spend a lot of time focused on or concentrating, or, the tagline of the show is delivering truth to youth, and our target audience is 18 to 30 years old. Got some information here on millennials, and the title of the article is, Are Millennials Hopeless? Okay? And it says that of the 2,300 Americans polled by YouGov, 80% of baby boomers and 91% of the elderly agree. It's nice to know that baby boomers aren't considered part of the elderly. That's cool.
Not yet.
Make note of that, please, will you, audience? 91% of the elderly agree with the statement that communism was and still is a problem in the world today. Millennials, only 55%. Okay? Furthermore, almost half of Americans between the ages of 16 to 20 said they would vote for a socialist, while 21% would go so far as to back a communist.
Wow.
All right? Capitalism, on the other hand, is viewed favorably by 64% of those over the age of 65, compared with only 42% of the millennials. In fact, more than half of millennials say the economic system works against them, while 4 out of 10 call for a complete change to ensure highest earners pay their fair share. So there's a lack of perspective, according to the foundation, that the survey showed among a big chunk of the younger generation. For instance, a third of millennials say they believe more people were killed under George W. Bush than Joseph Stalin.
Wrong.
Oh.
Well, but that just shows to go you. You know, and
That's our good education system by the
but
government.
take that to what my high school buddy said about why would Trump say something about the election being rigged. Well, actually, if the millennials are listening and they think that capitalism is against them, then they think that the system is rigged as well.
That's true.
Okay?
Exactly.
So, again, I think we're going to find out, you know, and there was an article today providing evidence that even the lighting on last night's debate varied. That the lighting on Clinton's side had a filter on it to make her look softer, younger, you know, better. All right. And the lighting on Trump's side had no filter in order to make him look sick and not doing well, tired. I mean, we know it to be a fact. They can adjust the studio lighting however they want to, and it makes a big difference.
That's right.
Okay, so now we've had some fun with nonsense. Let's talk about more nonsense, and that is do some fact-checking on last night's debate. And Bocce and I did this before we came on the air, and Bocce did a great job of remembering what the candidates said at last night's debate. Okay?
Thank you.
But that's not the objective.
That's right.
The idea is what they said, is what they said true or false. All right? And Ms. Surefire is going to keep score. So we're going to bang through these pretty quickly. All right? The first one is about Hillary Clinton claimed that Planned Parenthood provides cancer screenings. True or false? Not whether she said it or not. Is it true or false that they provide cancer screenings?
It is false.
It is the actual. You're right. It's mostly false. They don't do any, breast cancer screening, et cetera.
Exactly.
And that's what they were talking about. So put that on the false column. Trump spoke of partial birth abortions as ripping babies apart. Actually, about ripping babies out of the womb. All right. Is that true or false? That's a true statement. That's exactly what happens in a partial.
He said it, and he's right.
Right.
It's a fact.
He just can't get out of that, can he? Trump stated that Hillary wants to give amnesty. She wants to have open borders. We know he said it. Now, is it true that that's the way Hillary feels?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay, so we got two truths for Trump, right? That rhymes, sort of. Okay, Clinton evaded a question about her speech to a Brazilian bank advocating open borders, released by WikiLeaks. True or false? It's true. She's for open borders.
Oh, okay. See, I got confused. I know that she's for open borders, so yes, it is true.
You do on every question. Okay, Trump asserted that his Democratic opponent, Clinton, wants a 550% increase in the number of Syrian refugees entering in the United States.
It's a fact.
It's a true statement. Okay, so far, Trump's been telling the truth in his assertions. Okay. Number 6, Trump said that Clinton wanted the wall when she was a U.S. Senator from New York.
True.
That is true. That's exactly true. In September 2006, she made a speech about it. Okay. Clinton said at the third presidential debate that she wanted to stand up against Citizens United. That's the money coming in to special interest groups, corporations, et cetera, to PACs.
And it's true because she's against that. Am I right or wrong?
No. It's okay. It's false. Clinton said she was for it when in fact she's against it. No, wait. Clinton said that she was for doing something about it when in fact she likes it like it is.
Okay.
Let's put it a different way.
Yes.
Okay. Clinton responded to a question about gun rights, and she said, "I support the Second Amendment." Does she or does she not support Second Amendment? No, she does not.
No.
It's false.
She does.
She did make the
it's
statement, I
false.
support Second
She
Amendment.
did make the statement.
And it's
but
absolutely false.
It's false.
All sorts of history shows that. Clinton talked about raising the minimum wage because people who work full time should not live in poverty. That's mostly false. No, it's
it's the fault. Yes,
The statement is
mixed up
false.
what she said and she's false.
well, but see, that's exactly the point.
I know that is. That's the way they operate,
She's
right? That's what you told me.
She's putting it out there as if it's true.
Yes.
And you're remembering it as she said it, which
Yes.
most of the people watching are doing the same thing, when in fact she's just told a lie. So
Yes.
it's the old story. If you tell a lie often enough, the people will start to believe it.
I knew that in
So,
sixth grade.
It's working. She will not add Clinton said she will not add a penny to the debt. Is that a true statement or not? It is not.
Right. It's not. Well,
It's false.
yeah, it is false.
It's false, period. She will add a lot to the debt. And then there's all sorts of proof here behind these fact checks. I'm just not reading them to you. It's out on the Facebook page, the Doc Owen Show Facebook page. Trump mocked the appearance of some of the women who suddenly claimed to have been target of his sexual advances.
False.
Yeah.
He said it, but it's false.
It's half false, so they called it half false.
Okay.
Okay. Number, blah, blah, blah. Trump said that Hillary Clinton's plan would more than double the capital gains taxes.
Fact check.
That's true.
True.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Say it like fact check and you'll get it. Clinton claimed that 33,000 people a year die from guns. Fact check?
False.
Exactly. Now you figure out how to play it. Clinton praised President Obama's economic performance, adding he has cut the deficit by 2/3. Fact check.
As a fact, false.
Exactly. Are you keeping score?
Yep.
Okay, doke. Clinton, in her capacity as Secretary of State under President Barack Obama, gave us ISIS, is what Trump said. Mostly true.
It's mostly, it is true.
It is true. Okay.
Yes. I agree.
Trump complained about telegraphing major military actions such as the invasion of Mosul for months and said these people have already left.
True.
It's true. And speaking of telegraphing, she's in hot water for talking about the nuclear detonation time frame last
Good.
night.
I know, because she was wrong on that, too.
Not a matter of being wrong, it's a matter of it being treason.
Exactly. Exactly.
she can't
Giving
say-
away classified information.
Exactly. Trump refuted moderator Chris Wallace's assertion that Trump's claimed the Syrian city of Aleppo had fallen. That's mostly false. It has fallen. Trump was wrong.
Yeah.
Trump was wrong on that.
Yeah.
He did make the statement, have you seen it lately?
Yes.
But anyway, Clinton claimed the Affordable Care Act has extended the lifespan of the Medicare Trust Fund. It says,
Excuse me.
It says half true.
Half true.
They gave her a half true on that one. Trump said during the third presidential debate, Clinton Foundation accepted millions of dollars from countries that treat women horribly. That's
And
true.
it is true.
That's a true statement. Okay, 90% of all the money Clinton said 90% of all the money donated to the Clinton Foundation is given to the people around the world and in our own country.
And that.
Proven false by her own tax
Yeah.
statements. All right, it's exactly upside down. She gives 10% and keeps 90%. That's what her tax statement says. Clinton claimed that most of the gains in the last 10 years since the Great Recession have gone to the very top. That's true. That's a true statement. So Clinton gets a true. They're hard for her to come by. Trump claimed that the Hillary Clinton campaign paid protesters to be violent and to cause fights.
He was right.
He was absolutely right.
Absolutely right.
What's the score? We
We know
We've got
that.
about 30 seconds. Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.